Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today I am very excited because I have some recommendations here for you that is all about one of my favorite, probably my favorite type of hero, and that is just a very protective hero. I absolutely love nothing more when the heroine is in a little bit of danger and the hero is like, touch her and I kill you. Like, I just freaking love that so much. And so I have some books in here where there is at least one of those moments where it's like, touch her and I'll kill you, or he's just like super, super protective, and I just love it. I love it so much. I made a TikTok with some of these books, but I have added some that I feel like really, really, really exemplify this type of hero. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book, and one of the reasons that I love this book so much, is Dreaming of You by Lisa Klepas. This has one of my favorite historical romance heroes of all time. He actually may be my very favorite. I think he is. I don't know. He's up there. One of my favorite historical romance heroes of all time. That is Derek Craven. I love this book so much, and one of the reasons I love it is because he is such a protective hero of the heroine, and even before he recognizes that he loves her, he's still like going to just murder anybody who even makes her hair look not perfect, you know? Like, he is just so protective and tender with her, and I just love it so much. There is actually a scene in here where she is in danger and she ends up being like sort of like kidnapped, and he comes to her rescue, and it's just like, it's just my stuff. Like, it is my thing. I love it so much. The basic premise of this book is we have Derek Craven, who is a self-made man. He is very wealthy now, but he really comes from a troubled past. He's got a lot of emotional baggage that he's working through. He doesn't feel like he deserves love or that he deserves really anything good in life. And he is a gambling hell owner. And we have Sarah, who is the heroine, and she is a writer. She's writing these series of books that are extremely popular about ladies of the night and basically a life of sin and all this other stuff, and nobody really knows or believes that she is the author of these books. So she ends up meeting Derek one night when she comes to visit his gambling hell because she's hoping to learn how a gambling hell is run so she can research it for her books. And they have a lot of a complicated history. They have some really, honestly, very romantic moments in here. Derek Craven just would do anything for her. He loves and adores her so much, and it is just, it's wonderful. He's very protective of her. I love it so much. So this is probably one of my top protective heroes. I adore him. Okay, and another book that I immediately thought of when I thought of a protective hero is Hookshot by Kennedy Ryan. I know I've talked about Kennedy Ryan a lot, and I have talked about this book a lot, but I love and adore this book, and one of the main reasons that I do is because Keenan is so protective of Lotus. Like, this book is basically, it's a basketball romance. Keenan is an NBA star, and he has recently been divorced. His wife cheated on him. He has a young daughter who he is raising, and he's really trying to work through that trauma of his wife being unfaithful to him and trying to move on and move past that. He ends up meeting Lotus, the heroine, who has a little bit of trauma herself. She's really gone through some things in her childhood that are very painful and could be potentially triggering. I would say trigger warning in this book for sexual assault and violence. And it is really about her working through those issues and falling in love with him along the way. And it is a beautiful, passionate, wonderful book. I love it so much. And there is a moment in here when Keenan sees that someone has taken advantage of Lotus and has used her image without her permission. And she's kind of like, just let it go, it's fine. And he's like, oh no. And he goes to defend her honor. He is very protective of her, and it is beautiful. I love it so much. He is a fiercely protective, loyal man, and I adored it. It was perfect. Okay, another book that I have with a protective hero is The Professional by Kresley Cole. This is part of her Game Maker series, so this is a contemporary romance, and they are all basically about the Russian mafia. So we have Alexander, who is part of the Russian mafia, and he is basically known as the enforcer, and he is sent to protect the daughter of the Russian mafia, like Dawn. He is sent to go find his long-lost daughter and bring her back and protect her and all the other stuff. So it really begins with a bodyguard type of relationship that evolves into attraction, a lot of chemistry and feelings, and very much all along the way, like, he is very protective of her. He is very much a caretaker of her, and I really feel like it extends beyond the bodyguard trope, but it begins there, and it's very, very, very Five Flamey. It's honestly just, it's really, really great, and he is so protective of her, and those moments I really love because it shows the tenderness that this tough Russian mafia protector enforcer guy has, and it was just fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then I could not film this video without this couple, and that is Captain James Trevelyan and Lady Phoebe from Dearest Rogue, part of the Maiden Lane series. This couple has sort of been hinted at in a few books prior to this, and Captain James Trevelyan is actually Phoebe's bodyguard, and he is also a damaged hero. He has some injuries from serving the king, and he walks with a limp and a cane. And he is very, very, very much in love with Phoebe, but of course he kind of denies it for most of the book, and Phoebe herself is blind and she can't so he's really worried about her safety, for one, because she can't see things around her, and he's worried that she may be taken, like, unawares. But also there are people who are out to get her and kidnap her, and so he really kind of maintains this constant watch on her to make sure that she's safe and protected. And of course, he has feelings for her. And it was really just a subtly beautiful, very romantic, very swoon-worthy, absolutely delicious romance. And the protective element in here was just done to perfection. I adore this couple, and particularly this hero. He is so tender, but also so brave and loyal, and just, it was everything. Bodyguard romance, it was fantastic. I loved it. Okay, now I have another Kennedy Ryan book here for you, but I feel like she does this protective hero so well that I just absolutely love it. There's always a moment in one of her books when the heroine is maybe in a little bit of trouble, or maybe a lot of trouble, and the hero is just like, touch her and I will kill you. And I'm just like, I just love it so freaking much. So this book, this series, this is the second book in the series, and I included the second book because I feel like, because of circumstances with the plot, this book really makes the hero Maxim shine as a protector of Lennox, the heroine. Lennox and Maxim meet when they are very young. She is actually, I think she's only 17 when they meet in the first book. She's Native American. She is out protesting the drilling of her people's sacred land, and Maxim is actually the son of the man who wants to do the drilling. He definitely is not a huge fan of his father and his father's business pursuits, and he's really struggling with trying to break free of that and be his own man and not just have to do what his father wants him to do. This series is really just excellent in how it captures their epically beautiful, long-spanning love story. I felt like it was very realistic in that aspect of two people really being soulmates and maybe being separated and then finally coming back together. But this book in here was just like, he was so protective of her, and I loved it so much. Like, he is just one of my top heroes because of how protective and caring and loving he was for Lennox. It was fabulous. I loved it so much. This is probably my second favorite Kennedy Ryan book. Of course, the first one is still. Okay, and now I have another Kresley Cole book. So clearly I love these writers, and one of the reasons must be because they write protective heroes so well. So this one is Dark Needs at Night's Edge. This is part of her Immortals After Dark series. This book follows Conrad, who is a rogue vampire who is really very dangerous, and he is taken to this abandoned mansion out in the middle of nowhere by his brothers, where they are going to chain him and keep him there to try and get his mind right so he won't be so dangerous to everyone. And he ends up meeting Naomi, I always say her name wrong, Naomi, who was a ballerina in her life, and she is now haunting the mansion as a ghost. And the only person who can see her is Conrad. This seems very, very bonkers, but this book was just so beautifully romantic. It was honestly, I think this is the most romantic of Kresley's books, and that's probably why it's my favorite, because it brings all the elements of Kresley's writing that I love, but at the forefront, at the heart of this, it's really just achingly romantic and just so beautiful. And Conrad is so desperate to have a life with Naomi, but how can he, because she's a ghost? So he is extremely protective of her, and there's one moment in here, in this book, where he is just calling her name, and it's just so fantastic. I just loved it so much. He is the epitome of a protective hero, and I adored him and I adored his book. And I think that even if you've tried A Hunger Like No Other, or if you've tried the series and you haven't made it this far, I would still suggest you pick this up because it's that good. Okay, and then I don't feel like this list would be complete if I didn't include this book, and that is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Millivane. This is a fantasy romance. This is my all-time favorite fantasy romance. I love this book with my whole heart and soul, and one of the main reasons I do is because of the hero, Matic, and the way that he loves the heroine, Yvaine. Now, this book starts out where they are very much enemies. Yvaine and Matic are enemies. Matic is a barbarian prince, and his parents have just been killed, and he believes that Yvaine, the heroine, that she is the one who is responsible for his parents' death. But they enter into this alliance where they agree to marry and have a child, because then that will help both of their kingdoms, because it's a matriarchal society too. And watching this brutal barbarian warlord, who was just a complete enemy to Yvaine, gradually, slowly, beautifully, completely fall in love with Yvaine, and be so in love with her that the thought of anything happening to her just causes him physical pain, and how protective he was of her was just... honestly, it was the stuff that romance novels are made of. I just loved it so much. He was a perfect... not at the beginning, you know, like you've got this whole book's journey to get him to go from being an enemy of hers to being just completely in love with her. But it's a thing of beauty, and I adored it. So he wins. He's one of my favorite heroes. I love this book so much. If you haven't picked it up yet on my recommendations, this is me saying, please pick it up right now. Okay, and the last book that I have that I really want to add to this list for protective heroes is All Scott and Bothered by Kerrigan Byrne. I love this book so freaking much. This is one of my all-time favorite Kerrigan Byrne books. I love the hero in this so much. So the hero in this book is Lord Chief Justice Ramsay, and he is on a mission to bring down the most notorious gambling hell in London, and he is out investigating to try and find who owns it so that he can stop this den of iniquity from existing. He ends up meeting Cecilia, who is the heroine in this book, and just from the moment he meets her, he is so completely taken with her beauty and with her sensual appeal to him. He is just struck dumb with her, basically. And there comes a point in here where he is tasked with protecting Cecilia and her young ward, so they have to go to this, basically a cabin in the woods, and he is defending them and protecting them from people who are coming to try and murder them or, you know, do bad stuff to them. And that whole journey of him really, like, protecting them at that house was just beautiful. It was so romantic. It was just perfection. I love nothing more than seeing these big, strong, brutish men just completely filled with terror at the thought of something happening to their woman. Like, I love that so much. I love how much that reveals about their character, and I love what that has to say about how much they are in love with their person, and it just... oh, it's one of my favorite things ever, and that happened here. And I just loved it so freaking much. He is one of my favorite, he's another one of my favorite historical romance heroes, largely because he's just so protective of her. He loves her and can't bear the thought of anything happening to her. So, those are my recommendations for some of my favorite books that have very protective heroes. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what one of your favorite books with a protective hero is, because I would love to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.